What do you do when you really like someone, but y'all just want to be friends and you don't want to scare them away? Alright, let's do this video. Before we continue, I would like to point out that romantic love is not inherently better than platonic love. They're just different kinds of love. So we're not going to use the phrase more than friends for this video, except for the time that I just used it, but it's not getting used anymore because I don't like that. Here's a pretty common scenario that happens amongst a lot of people. You have two people who are incredibly good friends, right? Super good friends. One friend catches feels for the other friend, and these feels are of the romantic kissy put my face on your face variety. They're that kind of feel. Sometimes, whoop-de-doo, the other friend catches those feelings too, and they date for a while. Congratulations, you did it! I can tell you from my experience that I've never dated someone for an extended period of time who was not also my best friend, so that's kind of like a hand-in-hand thingamajigger, at least for me. But a lot of times what happens in this scenario, which is what leads to it being complicated, is that the one person is the only one who catches feels for the other person. Other person doesn't have feels back for this person, but they're still buddies, right? They're still buddies. Here's a pro tip from someone who has had this happen to them very many times in their life. It's only weird if you make it weird. It's kind of like an awkward silence in that way, because an awkward silence is only awkward when somebody points out that it's awkward, right? It's not awkward until that point. It's just silence, and silence is okay. In a similar way, if the friendship is super important to you, and it's super important to the other person, you'll find a way to make it work. You will. Here's a really easy way to do that. Be honest and open about your feelings. Yeah, be honest. If you're the person who has the romancy feels towards your buddy, tell them how you feel. Explain to them what you're feeling and what you want and why you're feeling it and everything. Get it out there. Just get it out into the open. If you're the other friend who doesn't have those feels back to that person, tell them. Just say, look, I care about you. Obviously I care about you because we're friends. I just don't care about you in that way. By being honest, you are taking a gamble, of course. Sure, you're always taking a gamble when you're being honest about anything in this world. Basically, one of two things can happen here. The friend who's caught the feelings is a reasonable human, and they can handle the rejection, and they can say, look, I value this friendship enough that I'm gonna put up with this, and I'm okay with this because I care about you as a person, and I can put up with this. The second, less glamorous option is one of anger and negativity, in which this person just can't handle it. They can't handle it, so they have to cut off the friendship, right? And it's unfortunate, but like some people gotta do what some people gotta do. You should never feel guilty for not having romantic feelings for someone who has them for you. You should never feel guilty for that, ever. Ever. That's not something you control. That's just an instinctual reaction to another person that you're with, and you cannot have any influence on that whatsoever. You can't decide to love someone in that way. It just kind of happens. And if you're a person in a situation where you have feelings for a friend of yours and they don't have them back to you, absolutely, it can hurt. And it can be really hard to deal with. And it can be very frustrating and can keep you up at night. Definitely, absolutely. But you gotta ask yourself a question. Is this person worth it? Is it worth having this person in my life to be a little bit sad about this thing? And my answer usually is yes, it's absolutely worth it. Friendship is not a means to an end. You don't just be friends with someone in hopes that one day they'll make out with you. That's not how that works. You're friends with someone, for the most part, at least that's how I do it, because you care about them as a person. You like having them in your life, right? So if that means a little bit of sadness about a thing, I think it's worth it. I'm gonna harken back to what I said earlier. It's only weird if you make it weird. Just keep being honest about what you're feeling, what you're sad about, what you're happy about. Just talk about it, because that's what friends do for each other. If you're worried about it being difficult, for sure, don't. Because if you care about a person, if you truly care about a person, you will find a way to make it work. You will. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's sad, it's awful, but sometimes things just don't work. And you gotta move on, you gotta learn some lessons, and you gotta apply them later on in the future. But for the most part, if you care about a person, and that person cares about you, you will find a way to make it work. Because regardless of any extenuating circumstances, any variables going on with emotions, if two people care about each other, they'll care about each other. Because that's what friends do. They help each other. They talk through things, they solve each other's problems, and sometimes the problems are between the two people, but again, that's a thing that friends do. No relationship is perfect, no relationship is always happy. People are gonna make mistakes, people are gonna say dumb things, but that's just a people thing. People do that. People are always gonna do that. So learn to love it, embrace it, and work through it. Yeah? Best friends forever. That's pretty much all I gotta say about that. I was originally gonna do a whole Q&A video, but then I got that question. I was like, well, there's the video. Because I can't just answer that in a split freaking second. I gotta do a whole dang thing on it. So that's pretty much that. But yeah, as always, I'm Connor Manning. You've just become a little more awesome. And I will see you guys on Monday. Do you like my really crappily drawn hard eyes emoji? It's really terrifying me, and I think I love it. I love every bit of it. Terrifying. It's like the overly attached Lena, if you're one. It's like the overly attached hard eyes emoji, and I think I'm in love with it. I'm in love with it. I love that chalkboard, specifically the drawing on the chalkboard.